I saw this really striking graph comparing US tariffs with other countries. It doesn't matter what ideology you have or what social class you belong to, you're not gonna like this. Let me explain. So this graph is not like the stupid two-column chart Donald made. These data points are the actual numbers from the World Bank showing the average import tariff imposed by each country in the year of 2022. So larger circles indicate larger economies. There may be some minor changes since 2022, but the big picture is the same. And the author of this graph added two data points, which are the new average US tariffs during the 90-day pause and after the 90-day pause. As you can see, almost all other countries, at least all the major economies, had an average tariff in the one-digit area. Brazil was a little higher, like 7%, but the US currently has an average tariff of 25%. That's assuming the pause stays. But you know that guy, he does what he wants. So if he stops the pause, the average tariff will shoot up to somewhere around 33%. Okay, not just the US average is high, but there's also a baseline of 10%. So Trump's baseline tariff is already twice as high as most countries' average tariffs. So what does that mean? It means compared to the United States, the rest of the world is basically in a big free trade zone right now. Yeah, a 5% tariff used to be considered a lot, like far from free trade, but now they're negligible compared to the US tariffs. So from now on, when companies make their foreign trade decisions, all they see is two trade zones, the United States and the other countries. Okay, so yeah, maybe American consumers will be a little more likely to buy America, but the other countries will be way more likely to buy anything but America. That's why Wall Street Journal, normally a hardcore pro-Trump paper, admits that China will benefit from the drama even if it loses the US market, because the rest of the world will be pushed toward China. So this graph means that even though the US is still the largest economy, it's now in a smaller trade zone compared to all other countries. Okay, so basically the size advantage is gone. Now guys, please enlighten me. What other advantages does America have besides the market size? Honestly, I can't think of much. Donald was like, America used to have high tariffs. Firstly, as many people already pointed out, that period didn't age very well. Okay, but also remember, back then, other countries didn't have much free trade either. And half of the world was mostly colonies, not competitors. Now you have all the other countries, which account for like 3/4 of the world economy, trading with each other on low tariffs, while the American workers will be sewing their own socks. You don't need no goddamn economics to know how well that will go. Of course, I'm not saying recession is always a bad thing, right? If a recession can help American voters wake up and reject the stupid, I'm all for it. But until they do, things will be bad, period. I said in other videos that some tariffs on China are not necessarily a bad thing. China has two unique trade barriers, the foreign exchange control and the internet control, which I think are not good for the world economy. So I always believe that it'd be okay for the US to have some punitive measures on China, like 7%, 8%, just to divert the trade a little bit to other countries. But 145%, the fuck? It means if you are an importer and you already have a ship of containers on its way from China to America, you will be better off dumping them in the ocean than dragging them through the customs. If you insist selling them in the US market, you will have to sell them 2.5 times the original price just to break even. I've been using the same phone for like 5 years. I'm a frugal man. But boy, I had to order a new one yesterday because there is gonna be a price surge or even a shortage. I'm sure of it. How many times the supplies have to cross national borders to make a phone? The raw materials, the microchips, the parts, the packaging, the software, services. Every time something travels between China and the United States, its price doubles. Maybe the companies can move their production line, but where to? They can't predict what Donald's next tariff will be. Let's say if they all move everything back to the US. Okay, what if other countries start retaliating and they can't export their products anymore? Then they're gonna keep the US market but lose other markets. So they really have to think about it. And what if they move back to the US and suddenly Donald wants to have another round of insider trading and cancels the tariffs? They're gonna waste a ton of money and end up losing their competitive advantages compared to companies that didn't move. It's gonna be a mess. So this company, they just released a new fancy camera, and then they had to raise the price in the US by 10% only 2 days after the initial release because they just can't afford the new tariffs. Things like this will be happening all over the country unless Donald caves again, which is possible because he enjoys the insider trading and stuff. But this guy also has a big fragile ego. Maybe one day he's like, fuck it, I'm not gonna cave anymore. Well, in that case, don't ask me how to prepare for a Great Depression. I'm not old enough to remember that ancient shit.